Hello, everyone. Episode 25 is up.
And we are a little bit in a different environment today. We're recording from my office, and this might be for the next few days, so let us know what you think. And as always, we're going to start with the weird news, and then we're gonna go into discussing the main topic of the day, which is common reasons startups fail. That one was pretty interesting to research for me, by the way.
Yeah, there's a lot to it.
For me, I kind of went into more statistical data this time. Not a lot of stories, not a lot of examples, but more like, hey, what was the biggest mismanagement, or what are the real data? Because obviously the entrepreneurship is quite big and everyone thinks they want to be an entrepreneur and start a business and be a millionaire, but like the data is actually very sad.
Yeah.
From everything that I found.
We'll get into it later, but statistically, so many more companies fail. It's like 80% or something, according to VCs.
Yeah, it's so many. There's VC-backed ones and others, but we'll get into those details in the second part. So if you want, you can always skip to the main topic. And we, as always, start with the weird news. I can kick it off. I found this weird news about Apple. So in 2021, Apple basically violated their clickouts.
I have the same one.
Really? It was a big thing. Like,
Yeah.
Apple is losing. This is the first time I see such a big company actually getting into trouble. So Apple, basically what they did back in 2021 with the Fortnite, so you could play Fortnite on your mobile games, they would basically block any outside clicks. So what does it mean? It means that anytime you would like to make a purchase and you did not want to pay a fee on the Apple Store, you would click out, and then what happens? They would block it, or they would basically fear you. So like fear you out. They would give you like weird signs like, oh, if you're going to do that, we're going to block you and you will not get anything. So they start basically fear mongering in a way, any type of click out. And right now, obviously, after 2021 lawsuit, right now, Apple is probably going to pay a lot of money back to Fortnite. It is also what they did. They applied a 27% transaction fee for anything within the Apple Store, and they actually didn't warn anyone. They just like, oh, this is a new rollout plan, blah blah blah. They did not reason it about anything, and they basically misaligned the date when they did that. So like, oh, it was always in place. I'm like, what? No, it's like it cannot be. So basically, it's criminal. Obviously, there are going to be remedies for that. It's a massive revenue risk as well for Apple because this is a really big issue. It's basically like scamming any kind of developer, and yeah, it's insane.
Yeah, that's another issue of anti-competitive behavior. This is one of the things that's becoming a big issue now with both Apple and Google. Google also, they're looking at breaking it apart into separate companies because the fact that they're both a publisher and the advertiser, they get the advertising money and then they favorite their own software is becoming a huge issue for them.
I've heard that Amazon did that as well. So Amazon would copy basically the most popular products on Amazon store, and they would just recreate it. They called Amazon Special or something, Amazon like Basics, right? And they would basically copy designs. I've seen somewhere there was a guy on YouTube. He said, "I have been designing for like 10 years a laptop case that you can wear." He's like, it has so many compartments, such a design, such like tweaks, and he said it was the best selling thing on Amazon until Amazon basically pushed his listing down, and they came out with this Amazon Basics, and it's exactly the same design, like from China, basically, with like very bad quality. And yeah, he's like, I feel scammed.
Yeah, I mean, this is the big issue with vertical integration.
I really don't like it. And the Google as well, they can pretty much push any company down. I remember when we were trained by Google, I asked Google, it's like as well, it's like, why are you training our company for free? He said, what if you have a special product or software?
Yep.
Then we can buy you out, and then we're the innovator.
Yeah, and they get the inside scoop.
Exactly.
They're like, oh, this is what Google always does. They provide things for free, but you're the product.
Exactly. So that was very interesting to see as well.
I mean, on a similar note, TikTok got fined $600 million.
Whoa, I missed that. What happened?
Yeah, it's a GDPR issue.
Really? Oh, yeah. Okay. Finally, some GDPR cases after what was it, 2018 or something, when GDPR like went into play in the European Union. They basically right away, like Facebook, Google, I don't know, Instagram, every company got sued.
Yeah. I mean, they've been funneling data to China, and they got pushed by the Irish Data Protection Commission.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they got fined 600 million. $485 million were fined for sending data to China, and 45 million euros actually, for its privacy policy failing to adequately explain data transfers. So they fudged the paperwork on it.
Wow. So I like when you like, we have the data, we have the numbers, but in reality you can tell any story with any numbers,
Oh
with
yeah,
any data.
it's all about how you present the statistics.
Exactly. Wow. Maybe it's about time, but also like what is gonna happen after they're gonna pay it off? They probably have a lot more money, and they don't care. They're just gonna continue doing it like via some third party source. I don't think they're gonna get in trouble. But I like that there's a case for it.
Yeah, but it's complicated because they're primarily being targeted because they're a Chinese app.
That's true.
This wasn't gonna happen to any of the Western apps, was it?
That's a good point. Well, Facebook also is in a lawsuit, I think, still about GDPR compliance.
Instagram should be, yeah.
Yeah, pretty sure. I mean, it's all Meta.
But I mean, this is one of the reasons these people hate the EU.
I think EU does something right. Maybe they're slow, maybe they're not so innovative, but they're like also very protective about whatever they have.
I am because Silicon Valley is all about the move fast, break things mentality, and they don't care about what gets broken.
Yes, fair.
Usually, it's society. Society gets broken.
Talk about being broken. Have you heard the news about the University of Zurich? They made a study where they released 13 AI chatbots into a subreddit.
Oh yeah. I read about this.
So the subreddit is called r/change my view. So basically, people go to that subreddit because they want to basically not argue, but have a very nice dialogue about, hey, I think this is my opinion. Try to change my mind. That's the main point. So there was basically a group of students who were writing their thesis or something, and what they did, they created 13 AI bots and they released them into the subreddit. And what started happening, they started arguing. But it's very interesting how they did it. In the first stage, what they did, they had a profiler model. So basically, this would scan the profile of the person who is trying to get his mind changed. Then they would analyze and see, okay, this person is probably going to be convinced in one of our 13 models. And those models were like victims of disaster or racism or something, like some sort of very bad background. So they would profile it and they would put this AI into a wrapper, and it starts arguing and evaluating, am I doing a great job of commenting this person, trying to change their mind automatically? They had also some guardrails, so they were basically limiting about like 15 comments a day. They had linguistic variations, so sometimes it would be pretending that it's a teenager. So what it would do, pretending to be a teenager, make mistakes, typos, use emojis and stuff like that. So they would rotate IP addresses. So, but Reddit came out when this got released. It said this is the worst ethics breach I've ever seen. So it's explaining that the bots posed as like basically assault survivors, trauma counselors, political advisors to tailor 1.7 thousand persuasive comments and winning over like they called it points. So you had to earn points to see if you actually convinced someone. Obviously, this is crazy, and Reddit is going to be suing probably the Zurich University because of that. And what they also mentioned that this is dangerous when it comes to propaganda and influencing, let's say, people in the media. That Facebook right now is also exploring, hey, how can we use fake profiles on our platform to use it for ads? To convince others. So basically get an AI agent, you pay money, and it goes into the comment section and convinces everyone to buy your product. This is insane, and it works because what happens, basically it resulted in that every single AI chatbot in that subreddit managed to convince people and change their mind.
Yeah, so something like the success rate was much higher than with the people. It was like 60% or something.
Yeah. So it basically managed, but what it did, it also tried to not skew the data. Which happened, they would publish a response, and if it would not get a response in 3 hours, it would delete itself. It delete the comment, so it doesn't lower the score. So it was adjustments. And also, if they basically did not respond, it would send a follow-up. If it didn't get a follow-up, it would also delete. So there was a special way of not pulling the statistics down. So they had their ways of doing that. But the worry is that obviously it's small academic team that basically managed to sway opinion easily at this stage. What's going to happen if it's like everything's automated? Quite scary.
Yeah, I know. This is reading this, I was like, oh, that's very unethical. The way they were like pretending to be like trauma survivors. There was a guy who was just like pretending to be a black person who's against BLM. uh, this is usually you need to hire talking heads, but in this case, you can just set a program to do agitprop on the internet.
For me, it was very interesting that obviously Reddit came out as like, oh, it's really unethical. Oh, you were using automation and that's not allowed or the terms against the terms and conditions. Obviously, it's like fabricated backstories. You can have like an emotional sort of toll on the community because the community is there for a reason. So like they're raising pretty cool things, but otherwise it's like it's still bots. Like you also have a lot of bots that automate things. It's just this is a great example. And for me, what I think this is a great case study to go against, right? Let's say Meta using this as a functionality for their advertising because, oh, on Reddit, this is bad that it's automated, but if you pay for it, says Meta, then it's okay if you want to convince everyone to buy your product. I think there's like, it's a two-sided metal here.
Yeah, but I think ultimately having bots running around is counterproductive because how most social media makes its money is through advertising. And if there's bots everywhere, that breaks the data pool for them, you know? Bots will have a very specific, it'll be bad data, right? If
Yeah.
it's not human beings down there. So I think it's against their interest to have bots everywhere. And it boosts engagement, certainly, but you'll get just a corrupt sample.
Remember we spoke about dead internet theory?
Yeah,
That's basically the dead internet theory means that the whole internet is actually run by bots,
yeah.
and not real people. And actually, it was confirmed that more, almost, it was like 45 or something percent of the whole internet are just scanners, bots, reviewers. Now it's AI chat bots, AI bots, sorry, that are just scanning all the websites. So we're very close to having more than 50% of all the traffic online being AI bots.
Yeah.
It's insane. So the dead internet theory that was came up like in the 90s, I think that's where it was first raised. So maybe that's gonna happen. But I think this should unfold very interestingly.
And yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all. Most of the internet is spam.
That's true.
That's like 90% of the internet or something.
But if it's human produced, that's okay. But if it's AI chatbot, like
I mean,
AI produced, it's not okay.
it's gonna just be faster.
It's more trash.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Do you have anything else?
No, those are mine.
I have the last one. President Donald Trump posted an AI generated
Oh,
picture of himself dressed as like in a full papal regalia. So basically, he published on Blue Sky, and then he published it on his own social media and on X that he dropped this a few days after the Pope died. And he said, "I'd like to be the next Pope." Basically, he got a bunch of support from all the MAGA people. But of course, this did not go well. Actually, the White House also picked it up. The White House started basically saying, "Yes, go ahead, Trump." And the MAGA commentator says this is legendary trolling and make Vatican great again. But the critics of the Catholic writers and like the Catholic Church they basically said that this is very disrespectful and maybe something's gonna happen. And this again goes back to deep fakes are insane. I sent to our social media manager Constantine like a video and I said, "What do you think? Is this like fake or not?" And I sent like maybe 4 videos actually. He's like, "I cannot tell anymore."
Yeah.
Deep fakes are going such a long way, like you cannot tell, and that's another risk if you have an image of a person in a video that you cannot tell if it's real or not, and you have it commenting somewhere being automated. I don't know, like somehow this became very dark.
Yeah, on the topic of Trump and the Pope, all of his sycophantic people were like, "Yes, Donald Trump should be the next Pope." And it was Lindsey Graham posted it, who was senator. And what happened was, when he posted it, I'm like, "Aren't you Catholic?"
I mean, what was it? The political subtext is like Trump also floated New York Cardinal Timothy Dolan as a very good real candidate. Man, come on! It's like this is just funny.
Yeah, the Religious Liberty Commission.
I can't. This is for me. It's like it's a joke that should be a joke, but when it comes from him, you're like, it's you don't know if it's serious now.
I mean, the entire cabinet is just 4chan trolls at this point.
That's true. That's the Doge doesn't come up so often anymore.
Yeah, because literally they tanked. Like Elon was trying to get this candidate elected. I'm forgetting who it was, and the people literally were like voting just as an anti-Musk ticket. That's how like Elon Musk they were. It's not the impression you get from the internet
Hmm.
because on the internet he just has so many tail riders, but the general public is like he's weird, he's like awkward, he's constantly bragging about how much money he has.
That's true. Maybe it's, yeah, because I did not hear a lot from it anymore. So maybe something's changing.
I certainly hope so. But the entire Department of Government, the second people heard that they might be cutting Social Security, all of the boomers suddenly gave a crap.
Well, what if it's my problem? Now we should, take care of it.
Yeah. I mean, Republicans have been trying to get rid of Social Security for decades at this point, and they did polling, right? And they were like, "What do you think of these policies?" And Republican people would be like, "This is horrifying." We're like, "That's the Republican ticket," and that's what they've been trying to pass for all this time. And they're just like, "No," they just don't believe it. They don't believe that's what their political aim usually is. So most of their own voters are like are always voting based on like this marketed up with very curated collection of phrases. We're for freedom of speech. What does that usually mean?
Yeah, that's a good point. I've seen somewhere there was a guy going around New York and he was asking, "What do you think tariffs are?" And it's like, "Oh, it's going to make us a lot of money, blah blah blah." He's like, "No, that's not how tariffs works." And the guy is like, "I work in trade, I work in logistics for the last 30 years. Let me explain to you." And he starts explaining to these people about what does it actually mean when it comes to like tariffs. And
Yeah.
they're like, "No, no, no, you're wrong." They're like, "Dude, I work for 30 years in this. I can tell you what is going to
Yeah.
be the result. You'll pay more for it." And it's, "No, that's not true. That's not what Trump said on TV." It's like, that's not what the whatever the White House posted.
Trump doesn't know what a tariff is. I'm
Yeah,
sorry to say. His supporters like think he's a smart guy because they're idiots. But even aside from that, there was this Jubilee debate with the where Sam Seder went, and he was debating 20 conservatives, and there's this moment that went viral, which is this guy is Donald Trump's gonna end DEI hiring sort of stuff, you know,
mhm.
and he's like because right now government agencies get tax cuts for for whenever they hire like a minority or something, and he looks at him and he goes, government agencies don't pay taxes, man. What are you talking about tax cuts? And the other guy goes like, no, you're wrong. There's no reality, you know. There's no reality anymore. There's no shared consensus.
Yeah, I like Jubilee. Sometimes it's like so funny to see what kind of arguments they're coming up with, and they like, "Let me tell you," and they just like talk for 10 minutes, and then they're like, "That's all I wanted to say." He's like, "Great." So I couldn't respond, but great. Let's move on to the main topic. I don't have a definition for this because it's pretty straightforward. Companies fail. I basically, what I did, I took the key setup failure traps and a little bit how to avoid it. I think I split it up into 10. And I have like run through some of the data and statistics about it. And maybe you can help me out when I'm going to be going through this with examples, if you have any. And the first one that I wrote down is the product market fit. So it's called the PMF gap. So building something nobody wants. It's a number one killer, 42% of failures. So this pretty much means that you did not do your proper research and you do not really understand what problem you're solving, because sometimes what happens with these enthusiastic startup people, entrepreneurs, they're like, this is the best feature ever, this is the best like functionality, everyone will love it, and they're kind of going on this like vibe rather than actually solving a problem. And you have to first verify, and I really liked how one of the podcasts said about it as well, where I was listening. He said you should fall in love with the problem. He's like, you should be obsessed about this problem, and you have to ask everyone if it is a problem. If it's a problem for you, it doesn't mean that it's a problem for everyone else. But then you really need to see if it actually helps anyone.
I'm starting to think of the Juicero.
What is that?
You don't know about this?
No.
So basically, this company came up with a juice pouring, basically like a water cooler machine, you know,
Okay.
and you have to like put this thing in your kitchen, and then you have to put a bag inside it, and it pours it into a glass. All right.
Why can't you just buy a
Exactly.
package with the
So
juice?
this thing they were marketing it as if it's solving some sort of great problem. You can just stick a straw in the bag and have it, man.
It's like a Capri Sun. Big Capri Sun with a button on it.
It was it looked like a toaster. You press a button and it just pours that bag, and you can do that yourself. You can buy juice at the store. You can just unwind it and open it and unload it yourself. You don't need a machine.
It's like people go on Kickstarter, so this is great. No, but the what would be the solution? Like I do instead. So you have to, as I said, validate the markets. Does it really solve a problem? And start maybe with the MVP or like the minimum viable products, or maybe solve the must-have problems. Like why is it actually important? And use feedback from people, because you cannot just build something in the void and think that you're solving something. That's like one in a million.
I mean, there's when you're developing a product, you're either aiming to solve a blue ocean problem or a red ocean problem.
I never heard about it. What is
You
it?
don't know this?
No.
Okay, so blue ocean is non-competitive, and red ocean is highly competitive.
Okay.
So blue ocean is you have very rarely you'll find something that's a blue ocean strategy, because it needs to be a new thing. Now red ocean is where most people end up going, because a lot of companies will exist there. You know?
And it's also very visible, right? So you're like, oh, this company can do better, or at least you think you can do better.
Yeah. So the problem with blue ocean strategies is you need to validate the market there. The problem with red ocean strategies is you need to find a new angle to be competitive.
Fair enough. Oh, that's a good one. Never heard about it.
Yeah. It's this is me parroting back my master's degree.
That's a good one. The other one I wrote down is weak unit economics. So basically, you're spending more time acquiring new customers and not actually serving them. So when you say, "Hey, we're very profitable," our cost per customer acquisition is like whatever. We spend $100 to get someone in, but then if the person doesn't actually spend or stay with you, right? Then what's the point? Your lifetime value of your customer might be smaller or shorter, and it's not really paying off. It's not only about customer acquisition costs. It's not, hey, I paid €100 for an ad and it came in. No, you have to also count the operations, the marketing people, the internal hours, the setup, and so on. And then it becomes much bigger. So people basically oversee this as a problem. So the idea is to focus on basically, if you have a customer, keep him for a long time and then move again to acquiring new customers, because keeping a customer is better. And what basically happens there is that people think that they scale very quickly. And this has actually happened to me. I got a sales call not so long ago, and this company basically says, "We do SEO." I'm like, "Okay, wow, how are you different from like SEM Rush or something, or Href?" And they're like, "We grew so fast, we have 100 people in the year." I'm like, "No, but I don't care." Like, it doesn't mean you're good. It's like, we have a lot of customers. I'm like, cool. I'm like, but what are actually solving? And she's like, well, you should see. I'm like, your data is wrong. I'm like, I see everything. She couldn't tell me. She's like, she just like brags about how quickly they grew and how many clients they have. But I'm like, well, this communication is like, this is not the way you should do it. And maybe you're getting some customers who have no idea what they're doing. And when we know what we're doing, it was very interesting to see how we tried to pivot out of it. So I feel this is one of those problems as well, where they're like, scale, get as many customers in. And then you're like, what now? Can we deliver the product? Nah, that's fine.
I mean, there's also I'm pushing back on one idea you proposed, which is you develop the product, is there a market for it? But sometimes you can change the market.
That takes a lot of
for
time
the
and
product.
effort.
No, you can change the market for the product. For example, the Apple Watches and the Fitbits well, they're called Fitbits now because they realized, people aren't that interested in that application, so let's make it a health advisory sort of computer. So suddenly the market pivoted. So sometimes companies figure out as they're, going along
Yeah,
what they're gonna do with this.
that's true. But the people then enjoy the products. And also, if it's like not the most expensive product that actually improves your health
Yeah.
and monitors your health, I think that's great. But then they don't, as you said, they don't market them as a watch.
Yeah.
But also they have a high quality product, which means, hey, if I'm wearing Garmin for the last 6 or 7 years, I'm gonna be like buy a Garmin again. I'm not gonna pivot to something because this is what I like, right? Because I like the customer support, I like the apps that they have, and that's where I think they acquired me very strong and they're providing a good service.
Yeah. So Then let's move on to another reason startups fail.
Tell me.
All right. Well, I was going to talk about how oftentimes VC funding comes into play.
Yes, go ahead. I have those as well. Very, very interesting statistics.
Like WeWork is a really good example of this.
Tell me.
So WeWork set up all these co-working spaces where people could just go and you could rent them out, and there was like no real market for that thing, but they were just doing the thing that you were talking about, the scale, and they had tons of VC funding, and then suddenly they needed to when time came to pay the piper.
Yeah. So, and they changed I heard about that. So what happened, they also changed the rates or something.
Yeah.
And they were buying a bunch of real estates. And when the rates changed for the mortgage costs or something, they basically couldn't pull it off anymore.
Yeah. So WeWork's prices were too low. WeWork had raised more than $500 million from venture capitalists.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah. Although it was now losing $6 million a month.
And it's like, this is like, I was as well reading about all the VC pouring money. And like, I think it was around 70 or 80% never see returns. Like literally, they're just like angel investors, no matter how much money they raise.
Yep. I mean, VC funding is just an insane thing on its own, you know?
It's a gambling.
Yeah. It's where the money goes for like rich people who have way too much. But the VC people were saying that they have, I think Mark Andreessen said this, that 20% of investments actually pay off. The rest just kind of fall to the side, but you make everything off of those.
That's true. Someone told me, I don't remember who, a long time ago, just clicked in my head. When you have so much money and you meet up with your millionaire, billionaire friend, it's not about how much money you have anymore. It's about how are you changing the world? It's about what impact do you have on this planet and like how much you care about something. So it's not about the money anymore. It's about being part of whatever lonely rich people.
Look at Jeff Bezos. He's sending pop stars into space.
Dude has nothing else to do with the
Yeah,
money.
no. At some point, it just rots your brain. You have too much money lying around. You don't do anything for humanity itself. So you just set up a space tourism company.
You can like solve hunger or something in the US, and what you do is send Katy Perry into space. It's insane, man. I don't understand.
Yeah, I remember there was this. We're getting off topic, but somebody tweeted at Elon Musk. He was like, "If somebody can give me a breakdown of how $1 billion could help solve world hunger, I'll give it away." You know, and somebody from like the UN actually gave him a breakdown of how the cost would go, and he just never replied.
Obviously, he's busy playing Exile.
That makes
Oh, well, the other one I have is called GTM, so go-to-market strategy. What happens a lot, so like failing to effectively reach the customers, right? So we as a marketing company, obviously, we're always like, what's the targeting? Is it the real targeting? Do you think this is the person you want to talk to? And sometimes even clients, they have no idea who they are. And they call them the ideal customer profile, so ICP, a lot of abbreviations, I know. So basically, it's about positioning and messaging and knowing what kind of outcome do you want to reach from those people. So the marketing strategy and understanding what aligns with sales and marketing. Pretty much bad marketing. Like that's one of the reasons as well that companies fail. Another one that I really liked was a cash flow mismanagement. So basically running out of cash. So I think when COVID hit, what happened in US, restaurants and all these, basically food restaurants and food providers had 2 weeks of cash, liquid money in their bank accounts to support the restaurant. So that means basically that, you don't know if the client is going to pay, how quickly the client is going to pay if you provided a service. You don't know what are the expenses. So basically, you're not building your cash flow and cash management correctly.
Yeah.
And it was 82% of small business failures involves cash flow issues. It's not all out of these issues, it's like one issue. It's like a mix of things, but 82%. So basically, like it is fatal because you just cannot pay your employees, you cannot pay your distributors, you cannot pay someone if you have to buy something.
Yeah.
So that's crazy. And what was mentioned in one of the research papers about that you have to be obsessed with forecasting.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like this is why companies fail because they're like, oh, I'm going to spend so much on marketing, but then you don't forecast, you don't create a KPI, and that pretty much says that you have no idea what's going to be the potential output and when, and therefore you basically mismanage your
Yeah.
budgets.
It's also a lot of companies don't stick the landing on that transition from being a small team to an actual business. Everybody likes the startup phase where everything's loose and very go with the flow kind of
Mhm.
operations. But the second you have to suddenly bring in an accountant and structure everything, and then say break it down into, oh, well, by this quarter we need to achieve this much. By this quarter we need to achieve this much.
That's why salespeople have goals.
Yeah, yeah. So that part, they just usually don't stick the landing, and they don't have the right team for it. Sometimes the team you have early on is gonna be those people who are very flexible, but aren't. But you need something more rigid, and you need the like a proper structure. That's kind of breaks a lot of people.
That's true
It,
because like it's not fun. It's not a
yeah,
fun job. You just have to, kind of suck it up and just do it because well, again, like it's also a game in a way. Because you have to know it's like, okay, if I send an invoice and give it a deadline to my client and then I follow up to it, oh, if it's a salary, can we schedule a salary day before like the dead like 1 week before the deadline that the clients have to pay, or you negotiate longer term payments if you have if you have to
yeah,
order like a big shipment or something, if you're a distributor, if you're, I don't know, e-commerce, or like you need stock, so you're like, oh, can you first send me the stock and then I'll pay you in 3 months, something like that, so you have time to sell something, so you always have this liquid money that you can use. The other one that is really more human, it's about founders' conflict. So unresolved disagreements about vision, strategy, roles, equity, or just basic decision making. 65% of failures involve founder attention, and 23 cite the wrong team.
yeah.
So basically, founders, they just don't agree on stuff. And it's very difficult. Of course, when you have like one CEO or something, it might be very easy to do it. But when you have two, three, four, five founders, that's how it like it's a big trouble because everyone has their own vision, mission, and ways of working. And when one is pulling the, let's say, all the weight and the other one is just chilling, of course it's unfair, and that's
Mhm.
where the conflict comes in.
Yeah, that's one of the things about building the right team. So much of this sounds like obvious stuff, but this is what the data shows. Most companies just aren't cut out for the long term in such a way, and the day to day becomes so like more hectic as you start growing, and then like your projections need to be more and more precise, and they need to be more and more long term, and not many people consider that, especially nowadays with like so much market volatility.
Oh, that's true as well. So that happens a lot when it comes to whatever is happening in the market. That is also a big thing. So sometimes you can fail to comply with the market. GDPR at the beginning that we discussed in the news, right? GDPR comes in, whatever you were doing might not apply anymore. Whatever you're doing becomes illegal. The regulations change. Maybe there's ethical standards that also change, like the DEI in US, right? Well, now it's changing. People are firing people and
Yeah,
releasing the departments, and the teams are falling apart. So again, it's never an isolated problem. So 18% fail due to legal and regulatory issues, and that's also a very simple kind of thing that you cannot control.
yeah,
That's why business has to be predictable. That's why when it comes to rules and regulations, and this is another reference maybe for US, what's happening when they introduced the tariffs, no one knew what's going to happen. So the businesses, they couldn't predict, they couldn't forecast, and therefore the ones who were not kind of in a secure position, they're falling apart. So they're going bankrupt, they're losing money, they cannot pull off if the margin was very low for them. So that's why some things you cannot control when it comes to regulation and rules.
yeah,
And if the government and or whatever chamber of commerce or the market is not predictable, that's risky.
yeah. So another reason that really interests me is when somebody comes up with a good product, but it's not user friendly. Like,
That's a good one.
for example, I mean, we'd all be using Linux, wouldn't we?
That's true.
Like, it's like such a good operating system, but it's so much more difficult because people are unfamiliar with it, and at the same time, it's so much more like nuts and bolts compared to Windows or OS. And not that Linux has failed, Linux doesn't has not, but so many software do come out like that, where somebody wants to be able to use it, but then they have a really difficult time, and usually that's mistranslation on part of the creator, because the creator is very familiar with the thing. They might have tunnel vision. They might be like, "Oh, this is comes naturally to me because I mostly work with coders and talk to coders, and the UX can sort of be terrible." And this is one of the things I guess Steve Jobs excelled at. He understood what was easy for somebody to like grasp onto. Like Steve Wozniak did all the heavy lifting, definitely, but Jobs had this one sense where he was like, "No, buttons are gonna go away. You can just like you can just touch the screen. You know, you don't need a stylus. Styluses are like uncool. There's a secondary thing that you have to carry around." He had that intuition, even though there's a lot of like debate about how much he actually did. But one thing he definitely did do was steer towards user friendliness because he understood people.
I feel that this is where you have to be not only visionary, right?
Yeah.
Because he was very visionary. He's a stylus is going to go away. It's some cool. You have to be this kind of glue within the company, because a lot of times when I also hear from even like startups and like bigger companies, they're like, "Oh, we need very highly like high specialists in something, like in one thing." And me and you would agree that sometimes middle management is absolutely useless. However, sometimes you need people who serve as glue between, let's say, the user and the developers, right? So you have the user needs a easy way of tapping the screen,
Yep.
with jobs basically, let's say, pivoted to. And also you have to convince and kind of be the glue when it comes to development and like technology and UXers and stuff like that. So being a glue in the company, I think it's also very important. You can be the best visionary ever, but if you suck in transforming that into the team, that's where you can also fail. If you're like super duper technical, but you fail to convince everyone else with like a normal human language, like why is it needed? That's also like can be very a big conflict. When founders they speak a different language as well, that also leads to like the failure. So what you described now is technical depth, right? And basically accumulating this like technical shortcuts and kind of cutting corners and maybe finding ways to like invent, reinvent, or push the limits. That can be also an issue if you don't translate it within the team correctly,
Yep.
or with the founders, or with the market as well, right? So you have to kind of be very careful where you're going to push that. Uh, so yeah, a little bit of a combination. But also when we're now discussing all of this, you can see that a lot of it is like human stuff,
Yeah.
right? Because like, hey, you got half a billion euros, failed. Hey, two founders did not talk well, failed. Hey, your team did not match, fail. Hey, your
Yeah.
technical depth is different,
Uh,
failed. So it's very interesting that it's like, oh, you build something super cool, no one wants it, fail. So again, it's about humans and it's about people rather than like
yeah.
a technical or a money issue.
There is that bias when we talk about businesses where people sort of just look at the data sheet rather than looking at how interpersonal all of these things are. And honestly, when it comes down to it, people will put a lot more work into a job that they actually like, and people forget that. you know so many of the startups you hear about, they're like, "Oh, we started off in a garage," and it'd be like really I think some of the best ones usually have somebody who's like that glue that you talked about. And Apple, it was actually Steve Wozniak in my mind, who's like a hero of mine.
Hmm.
He was literally just a working maniac. He would cobble together computers out of spare parts before a computer was a thing. uh, so he had that awesome work ethic, and like Steve Jobs was the one who humanized it. He was like, "Okay, this is how we're gonna market this thing." And that brings us to another one: poor marketing. That can be a really sort of critical flaw for a lot of companies. A lot of startups don't know how to communicate their product to the market. So a lot of startups have this problem where they don't have a good brand story, or they're too stuck in their own insider baseball, and they don't really understand how to communicate with somebody what's different about them versus XYZ competitors. We often talk about how Red Bull broke into the saturated market where Pepsi and Coca-Cola were the only options, and then suddenly their entire thing was, we're an actual energy drink. It'll give you wings.
Yeah. Oh my God.
You
That
know,
old one.
and somebody was telling me what they used to do early on was they used to go to festivals and
Mhm.
just leave empty cans of Red Bull lying around everywhere.
Oh,
So
that's cool.
they fed the idea of consumption, into people's brains.
Brand awareness.
Yeah, yeah.
Literally brand awareness.
Mhm. And that to me is like such a good example of how you could just sort of think outside the box, or when your competitors are so overconsumed,
Mhm.
you have to feed this idea this other thing is also being consumed, and you might want to check it out.
No, that's true. Like I really, Red Bull is like a great example always because they're selling a lifestyle. They're not selling
Yep.
a product. They're showing you extreme things. They're kind of also pushing on like your insecurities maybe a little bit. So it's like you lazy, go do something, right? Look how this guy on a motorcycle jumped out of a plane with a parachute and did like a backflip. You're like, what?
It's a very it honestly harkens back to the 90s, what Red Bull does.
Really?
Because
How?
there was this entire thing about like extreme sports and Gen X, and that was the era where like Tony Hawk was the king.
Yeah, that's right.
So there's almost something, every brand used to do that, you know. There were all these Pepsi ads and the Mountain Dew ads where it was basically someone outrunning a cheetah or something like that.
Oh yeah, that's true. I completely forgot about that one too.
But that used to be the dominant mode, and Red Bull just kind of, it almost feels nostalgic to me. It feels like those old ads.
Right, but maybe it's a little bit there to like tapping into nostalgia
Mm.
as well. They're like, oh, remember, it gives you wings. They're like, haha, that's an old ad. Yes,
But I guess it fits their brand story much better,
that's also true.
more so than Pepsi. I don't. The sort of excitement factor with Red Bull is much more potent
Hmm. No, fair enough.
because it's an actual energy drink rather than just a soda.
Fair.
Still though, next reason is not actively seeking or using customer feedback.
Yep, MVP. That was the first point. Market fit.
Yep. And in this case, there's so many tools to do this properly.
That's true.
The other thing is, I do push back on this because sometimes companies overdo this, where they don't stick their feet on the ground. They just kind of go up to the customers and go, oh, we're gonna implement this feedback, and the project just becomes a pile of nothing designed by committee. Like, look at it. This isn't what Facebook did, but when you open Facebook, it's just so cluttered, right? They just tried to make it everything.
That's true, man. Like I was scrolling not so literally today in the morning. I'm like, Facebook is insane. Anything you click, anywhere you see, there's a pop-up, there's an ad, there's like a square, there's like a low. I'm like, this is just overwhelming to me. Maybe I'm getting old, but this is just like it's just too much.
Yeah, it tries to be everything. And I don't think that happened because of customer feedback. It happened because
Agreed.
yeah, they're trying to create like this gigantic ecosystem of their own, so you never have to click anywhere else.
Sometimes what they also call a failure from companies in general, it's called code depth, right? So
Yep.
what happens, you build so much and there's so much legacy code, legacy decisions when you are a company of 100 years or something, right?
Mhm.
You come in, you're like, well, back 60 years ago, we used to do this, right? And then you have all this history of why a certain decision was made.
Yeah.
And when it comes to like the current age, let's say everything that is like internet based and everything that is digital marketing related, you have like the software as a service companies that are in the market for a long time. You have old code, outdated code depth. No one knows why it was built, how it was built, what's the point of this. You get like optimizations and new frameworks. So the basically the code depth is also one of the reasons why companies fail, because they basically hire a bunch of new people that have no idea how to fix it, or they have no idea what this change is going to do. And that takes a lot of money to refurbish, to update, and to kind of make it work in a very lean way and like it being scalable.
No. I mean, one of the things about that is like there's just fossil code everywhere nowadays on these websites, and something like we were talking about Facebook already,
Mhm.
but Facebook also just has just evolved constantly.
Mhm.
When it started, there weren't even messaging.
That's true.
It was all the writing on the walls, and then like eventually they became a messaging app more so than even a social media network. I know people who just have their Facebook account active right now only because of Messenger.
That's why I
So
use it.
I also just don't have patience for it. If I want to see one of my family members having a mental breakdown, yeah, I open Facebook.
Remember when you can do on Facebook, it's complicated? You're like, you know what? I'm going through something. You know what I should do? Change my status. I think that's not a feature that was actually came from feedback from the customer. Oh, that's funny.
But now, particularly for startups, the customer feedback issue is that in the beginning somebody can tell you something is wrong, but they can't exactly tell you what's wrong. They'll have a sense of they will understand that there is an issue,
Mhm.
but the diagnosis might just be wrong.
That's true.
This happens a lot with customers because they're not professionals, you know. But even with feedback, you got to use your own brain. You got to be like, I can't get rid of this thing because this is pivotal to this. But can I like tinker with it? Can I make this feature less apparent or less dominant on a software, for example?
I think we are reaching as well a point when it comes in general to UX. Everything looks the same and feels the same because it works.
Yeah.
And in some people who do not do the market research correctly, what happens? They over engineer
Yeah.
and over UX something with features that don't make sense.
And sometimes it's like something might be patented, but become the conventional wisdom of how to do something. But you try to skirt the patent, and you come up with
That's
something
that's
so much.
something else. That's the legislation part.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it doesn't only happen because people are actively trying to over-engineer something or be different or all that, but sometimes it just happens because you're like, well, maybe we can cut corners around here.
Or there's a legal reason, as you mentioned.
Yep. Still, the biggest problem is usually timing. So we have to talk about when you release your product.
Yeah, I think I heard something about a company that started during COVID. That is like outdoor company. To it's like those guys collapsed.
Yeah. I remember a friend of mine was working for an event company, and then she was doing her internship there, and the company just collapsed. The second the pandemic happened.
I mean, that makes sense, but this is also such a black swan event you cannot predict.
Yeah. But still, with the when it comes to timing a product release or something like that, you have tons of data. You can also stick your finger in the air and feel the wind a little bit. And the other thing is, if the timing is wrong, what do you do? Do you just hold on, fold the fort, or do you just call it quits and retinker your company?
It depends, but my first thought was you have to be flexible, right? You have to pivot somewhere that makes sense. If in what I see sometimes, even with the projects I work, if the client sees like, oh yeah, we cannot beat the market because 90% is already taken, it's like, yeah, but you can corner the market, right? You can take that 10% of the audience that are untapped and try to figure out how to create the message, the right targeting, allocate budgets, do some forecasting, do some planning. Even if the timing is wrong for the 90% of the people, there's always the timing right for some part of the people. So maybe there's a tactic and
Yeah.
strategy missing. So in my first kind of reaction is like, you have to pivot to what makes sense to do now if the bigger picture is a little bit unstable.
Yeah, this is the era of like brute force blitz scaling, you know? And so what happens is companies often become loss leaders for a long time.
Hmm.
They try to ride out the sort of the destruction of the market, honestly. Like that's what Uber is doing to the taxi industry, right? It's kind of just waiting to keep taking losses in huge chunks to the point where like it becomes the only dominant force.
So monopoly, right? And so if
Same
every
with
time
same with Spotify.
that's true, if every company fails while they're pouring in VC money, they're the only option that is left.
Yeah.
Fair.
So they kind of ride the wave to an intense degree. And if anybody's unfamiliar, blitzscaling is a strategy where you do precisely that. You basically take a massive amount of losses until the market conditions are ultimately favorable to you, and then you can start jacking up prices or dominating the market.
Remember we went to the TNW event?
Yeah.
Did we go together to the Miro CEO?
Yeah, we did.
What he said is we were a company that started blitz scaling, and then after a few years we realized that we have to do blitz fixing. And he said that's something that he did not anticipate. He said that we had to do restructuring, let go a lot of people. He's like, we lost a lot of money because we scaled so quickly. We had no idea what we were doing because it became uncontrollable. They couldn't actually manage like money and people anymore. They did not understand what's the point because they just grew so quickly. And he said we realized we have to like stop and do blitz scaling. And his recommendation was take one step at a time, think what you're doing, and like put a reason behind any action that you're doing, what's going to have the impact.
Yeah. It's also a lot of people think, oh, we're going to get a ton of VC funding and more money is better, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's not always the case. Sometimes you get a ton of money, but your company is going to grow at the same rate it was with the lesser amount, but then you have to pay back more.
Yeah, and also if
And
you
that,
have a lot of money, what if the conditions in the market change and then the money doesn't come in, but you already promised everyone and you hired a bunch of people and they're
yep.
like, well, we see money around whatever C, D, E, F did not come in, and you're like, you're done.
Yeah. Did you ever watch the show Silicon Valley?
No.
What happens in the second season is they finally their startup starts taking off, and the manager recommends to them that you need to take the lower amount of money, because if you take the higher amount of VC cash, what's going to happen is you're going to burn out.
Mm-hmm.
The company's just going to fizzle.
Yeah.
That's what I'm always reminded of, because I go, oh yeah, that makes sense. And you see this in so many companies. We just talked about WeWork, and there was no model. They were losing $6 million a month.
Yeah, I don't understand those. But also, even now, when we do any kind of KPI planning, even for our clients, what I see sometimes that, of course, they come in, there's like, oh, I have so much money when it comes to like media spending. And what I see in my projections that sometimes it makes no sense to put more money in it. You're like, yeah, your just costs are going to go up, but if you cannot handle it or you cannot scale it, there's no operations on your side to actually like make it work, what's the point, right? It's not about more budgets, it's not about more leads, it's just it's about how much you can manage first, and then you should allocate budget to that, right? Of course you need to do forecasting, but that happens a lot. Not even like when startups fail, but also if you don't do this, which also happens to a lot of companies, that they just like, all right, so we got 100K allocated, let's go spend it, and they're like, okay. Then they just spend it on something, and then it's like, oh well, we did not learn anything. Well, it's not our money anyway. Oh well, can we have more? That was fun. So yeah, this is a big thing.
It's so often that like some company comes along and they're like, well, we've got this new software that solves a problem that already exists. That solves a problem that is already being solved by a million other tools. You talked about this SEMrush alternative, right? How did they even try to pitch it to you as a different?
We have AI.
Ah, the everyone and their grandmother has AI now.
Yeah, it's like we have AI. It can write articles. I'm like, but is Google like against it? They're like, well, not all the time. I'm like, so you're telling me I'm like, I have a risk? So yeah, she did not really like me that much. She's like, can we speak to someone else in your company? I'm like, me.
I am the company.
I am the company. I am Benny. I have like a rundown I want to go through about like overall failures, reasons for failure, and other specific failure reasons and stats that actually have numbers behind it. I think this is very interesting. It's like a blitz, like a basically go like a blitz through. So around 90% of startups fail. So 90, that's insane amount. So FYI, every entrepreneur, good luck. About 20% fail in their first year. 45% to make it the past year 5. 65 to 70% are gone within a decade. 75% venture-backed companies fail to return cash to investors. This is what we spoke about. 25 to 30% of venture-backed startups fail outright. So the reasons of failure is 42% fail to no market need, 29 to 38% fail because they run out of cash and mismanage the money flow. 22% fail due to the wrong team or including founder conflict. 19 to 20% fail because they get outcompeted. 90% fail for flawed business models. As you mentioned as well, they had no idea what they were doing, the WeWork. 18% fail to pricing cost issues, 18% fail to regulatory and legal challenges, and 14% failed due to poor marketing. So pretty much a lot of stuff that you discussed and mentioned within your examples, it's basically like a combination of things. So the more you stack this, the higher chances that your startup would fail.
Yeah. I mean, the one that interests me is the no market need one. Because I think that's the juice arrow that I mentioned. There's literally no need for that thing. But then there's other products where like they start promising the moon and stars.
Yeah.
What was it? Elizabeth Holmes, Theranos, right? And the product just wasn't working. The functionality wasn't there. So they just started like saying to people, scamming them and saying, "Oh, we're gonna come back with the actual functioning product later. We're gonna come back with the actual functioning product later." And this is becoming so common now, where before there's even a product, people start amassing money.
They're selling successful success without having a product.
Yeah, yeah.
It's this is ridiculous, but it's like no market need. This also shocked me. Because if you think about it, you have so much stuff that already solved. Like, what do people can optimize more? That's already such a that becomes a job. I think if you want to optimize your life, it's a chore. It's like, oh, you don't like laying on the couch? Buy this other couch. I'm like, what do you mean? So yeah, totally agree. It's very difficult now, I think, to come up with anything new. When we spoke about the UX design, it's like there's a staple already.
Yep.
Like a lot of apps, they look the same. The buttons are in the same place because that's how it works, and it's comfortable and it's very common, and this is something that everyone's used to.
UX is a language of its own. It has its own sort of rules at this point. And I think the way we were arrived at it, so many companies have contributed to like little ways that it's been optimized. It's been optimized to such a degree. I don't think you need to reinvent the wheel.
I totally agree with you. It's about simplifying now and scaling down rather than more, better, and faster or something like that. So yeah, what did we learn? That's basically there's not one issue, and they live together and they interconnect all these issues. It's not just one problem within the company. It's important to validate things because 42% is quite a big number of startups that fail because they don't have any market fit. You have to understand the process and be disciplined, right? And have some sort of cash flow and play a smart game and build strong foundations when it comes to direction, alignment, maybe it's some sort of administration, your team. And we have to learn from failure. So if you see that something is going wrong, don't stick to it. WeWork and don't be Uber and Google and Facebook as a monopoly to squeeze everyone out of the market. There's always space for a startup. It's not like we're trying to scare you. It really sounds like a very negative episode because we're like failure, so many percent. Yes. But also you can always create something that you can get support with. And if 100 people support you, that's already enough sometimes to just do the thing you love.
Yeah.
So it's about micro companies. It's not about scaling. If you have crazy ambitions, good luck to you. But if you're trying to build something small and stable and really provide high quality to the clients and users that you already have, I think that's the right step rather than being a multi-billion, $1 million and 100 people in your company business. That brings more risk. That's more challenges. And that's where you obviously have higher risks of failure.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of puts a capstone on it.
Perfect. Well, talking about failure of companies and mismanagement money, we have launched our Patreon.
You can mismanage your money by giving it to us.
You can buy us a coffee now. So we highly encourage everyone to go check out our Patreon that we just launched. You can buy us a coffee for €3 a month. What do you get? You can go read and you'll see what you get. It's quite a fun initiative. After doing this for 1.5 years, we have decided, so maybe we earned a coffee to anyone who's actually listening. And it's not a complete void.
It's also, we're trying to turn it into a bit of a community. and you can sign in, and we can maybe give you business advice.
Yes, because we already did so much, and we have so many templates, so many problems we have solved that we also spoke on our podcast during the last year and a half. And that can be very interesting because we can give you a bit more insights into maybe a direction or a business question that you have.
Yeah, unlike a lot of startups, we did not fail within the first 5 years.
That's a good point. It was at 8 years and still going.
Still going, yeah.
Still going. So we're not just another statistic yet. For now.
Hopefully another pandemic doesn't happen.
Once in a lifetime recession.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for listening. Give us a like, share, do all the YouTube things.
Have a nice one.